problems. I hope we can finally start the session about eye movement data processing and analysis. This is the eighth session during the KES conference, our eighth session about eye movement. So quite a long history of sessions, and I'm very happy to see people, not the first time, a lot of people, not the first time here. And our first speaker is Ksenia Ryseva, who is online, as you can see, and her. Oh, we are waving you, but you cannot see us.
Okay, I can feel it. I can feel it still. So, yes, hi everyone. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to participate in here, especially for opening the eighth session. So, it's really an honor for me. And I would like to present to you the topic of my research, of our research, modulating role of stress on dynamics of eye movement during Schulte tables completion. We completed this research together with my supervisor Artem Kovalov, who you probably know from the previous sessions, and we also have a new person, Vladislav Pedashenko, who made the mathematics analysis. We are representing Lomonosov Moscow State University and Federal Scientific Center of Psychological and Multidisciplinary Research. Can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yes, of course, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So moving on to the research itself, the aim was to investigate the oculomotor strategies that might lead to better performance in stress-induced task conditions. And there were a variety of oculomotor activity markers which were analyzed. Our hypothesis was that following the most optimal scan path and performing fewer fixations and saccades might lead to better task completion in stressful conditions. It might seem very straightforward, however, we needed to support this hypothesis with some real findings, and according to the literature search, this task is not as straightforward as it might seem. So, speaking about the methods, we had 19 right handed female respondents with normal or corrected to normal vision. The mean age was around 18 years. The design was double folded between group. We had two groups, experimental and control. How we induced the stress. So we wanted to pass the ethics committee, and we couldn't do anything terrible to our respondents. So we introduced the metronome at the speed of 60 strikes per minute and a time limit, which is considered to be in the modern literature, in the modern research, an ethical way to induce stress. So that is exactly what we did. And the control group had no metronome and no time limits. They were in the free ride. Speaking about the stimuli, so we took the classic Schulte tables. They were bicolored, red and black. The size was 7 by 7 cells, and each of them were marked as areas of interest of 150 pixels. And we calculated the successful completion by the points of correct order of mouse clicks on the numbers. So basically, in the first table, let me put it in simple words. In the first table, the respondents needed to click only on black numbers in ascending order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they clicked on them correctly, they got the maximum number of points. If they made a mistake, we calculated by 11's distances. They got -1 point, -2, etc., etc. In the second table, the same respondent clicked on the red numbers in descending order, starting from 25 to 1, 24, 25, 23. Only red. While in the third table, they needed to do the most tricky part, that is alternating. So 1 should be black, 25 red, 2 black, 24 red, and they needed to keep it in mind. So in here they were found to be, according to previous literature and previous research, the cognitive load is extremely high in the third table, and that is where the most interesting stats are starting. The methods, we used the classic iLink 1000 plus. We recorded left eye because our respondents were right-handed at the rate of 500 Hz, a monocular mode, 35mm lens with the desktop mount and head stabilized. before we put our respondents to the task, we ask them to complete sustained attention response task. And after the Schulte table's completion as well, there were no statistically significant changes, which might tell us about that, about the fact that there were no changes of visual attention, and our respondents were very attentive during the task completion. So during the treatment, first, all the respondents, it turned out, didn't have any previous experience of working with Schulte tables. We were lucky about that. Otherwise, we'd have to exclude them, but we didn't need to do that. So they completed all three types of trials on 4x4 mock table. Then the respondents were put into were asked to sit into the desktop mount stabilized HUD stuff, and they needed to click on the numbers. They were also explained which group they are in. Once we gathered the data, we processed it in data viewer, applying classic linear interpolation. Speaking about processing, Vladislav used Python, a variety of applications, and I used SPSS for the basic stats. We decided to focus on fixation count, average fixation duration, saccade count, amplitude, number of correct clicks, which were later converted to points, RT of clicks, trials duration, and returns count. Speaking about the results in the discussion, so we correlated the variables. You can see in the left two columns. Primarily, those were the points of correct clicks order. That is the success, as we call it, the success of completion. And they were in negative correlation with number of fixations, which means that the efficiency was higher when fewer fixations were executed, which is supported by a variety of previous literature. I put up in here the most prominent literature works. The same negative correlation was found with number of saccades. Once again, fewer saccades, higher the efficiency. Number of returns, once again, negative correlation. So fewer returns, better strategy, better completion. And there was a positive correlation with saccade amplitude. That is, the efficiency was higher if the person scanned the whole field. So here we can see a variety of strategies that our respondents applied and how they led to more successful task completion, attention shift completion. That is that one part. Next part, we decided that we need to introduce a formula of mean difference of distances. Basically, in between numbers 1 and 2, there is the optimal distance, which was calculated in pixels. However, our respondents see these tables for the first time. In each trial, they were randomized, so it's not easy for them, and they needed to scan the field first. And we calculated how long their path was in pixels before they came to the correct point they needed to come. That is from 1 to number 2. And it turned out that the mean difference of distances negatively correlated with the efficiency. In the third trial, I'm reminding you, it's the one where there was the highest cognitive load. So it demonstrated that following the most optimal path increased the performance success. How people applied the strategy, we suppose it was due to foveal eyesight as well, but we need to explore it in more detail. That is just a pilot. Second formula that we wanted to present to you today is the mean dispersion of the total absolute change in speed. That is the differences in speeds of the saccades. So if they were at the same pace or they were at different paces. And it turned out that there is a statistically significant difference in relation to only the first Schulte table. That is the black table in ascending order, when comparing the control and experimental groups. And it turns out that in control group, the differences in speed of saccades were higher than the experimental groups. Thus, we suppose that we can come to the conclusion of the fact that when tax in stressful conditions, tax is decreased and it leads to similar speeds between fixations. So in stressful situations, people have the same speeds between fixations. that is it. Those are the main results, the discussion. I really want to outline the limitations before we come to that as well, before we come to the questions. So all our respondents were female. That is the limitation. Right now we are conducting a larger sample research of 50 people. We are going through the data at the moment, and the gender differences are going to be noticeable there. There are no statistically significant difference for oculomotor markers between the group. It might be due to relatively small size, and as we can see on a larger sample, it is truly because of the small sample size of this pilot. And tags and difference of actual optimal distances are statistically significant for while trials 1 and trials 3, which we suppose might be due to varying cognitive loads and the stress resistance of our experimental and control group respondents. So if you have any questions, I'll happily answer them. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe I can ask the first question, because could you explain what is this tax, how it is calculated, more or less? Because you just showed the formula, but it was quite...
Yeah. There's more extended formula in the paper. In short, if we come into, do you want like the meaning of the saccade amplitude, or you want the formula themselves? I can just demonstrate to you this.
Just try to explain us
the
what
content.
you mean by this.
Yeah, the content, surely. So the idea is that we try to calculate, each saccade has some speed. And while our respondent
changes during the saccade, it changes, yeah, it's
slow.
slow.
Yeah, the changes. So the saccade has a speed, and there were multiple saccades. We wanted to see the dispersion of this change in speed. So basically,
if you are talking about this speed of saccade,
yeah,
it's you mean the maximal speed during the saccade, or
I mean the velocity
average during one saccade?
Yeah, I mean the velocity and the acceleration of the saccade.
Yeah, but the velocity changes.
Yeah, the velocity changes, and we are interested in during the whole task. How did the velocity of the saccades change in one respondent, in experimental and in control groups?
Okay. No, still don't understand exactly, but I will read it.
Well, when we are discussing this formula between ourselves, we call it like the pace of saccades. Like in music, how paced they are. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Somebody want to ask question? We come here. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering if the results would simply show that people got more efficient when they were told to be more efficient. Because there was one finding, one time.
Yeah. So the question is, maybe the results are just showing that the people work more efficient than when they are told to be more efficient. Yeah. That's general, because the difference between control group and experimental groups maybe shows this.
Yeah, philosophical question. We didn't ask them to be more efficient, like be more attentive when you complete the task. No, they had no such statement. They were told to complete the task as fast as possible. So indeed, it is about the instruction. So I think the answer to your question is in the instruction. They were asked to complete the task as fast as possible. Otherwise, they would have to retry it. We didn't ask them to complete it correctly.
Okay, so okay. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you so
Any
much.
more questions? I don't see questions, and you don't see as well.
And I don't see as well, yeah.
So let's thank the speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you have any further questions, here is my email. I have just forgotten to write it down because it was the last moment trying to gather it all up.
Okay. But we have this information in the materials.
Yeah, if anyone needs it, here it is. I'm very happy to do any further research as well, if there are any questions as well. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, so we managed to do the first online